Welcome to Mystic Realms Recap. Please like, share, and subscribe. Enjoy today's episode.
At this moment, hundreds of fire elemental rivers that looked like large rivers were born out of thin air. Then, they surged into Nazario's body like rivers returning to the sea. During this process, Nazario's aura became more and more astonishing, and its body was rapidly growing. 1,000 meters, 1,500 meters, 2,800 meters, 3,600 meters. In the end, Nazario's body grew from more than 700 meters to more than 4,000 meters before stopping. Roar! Nazario roared at the sky. Its voice was filled with endless joy and excitement. At this moment, a text notification appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. Congratulations, your pet, Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction, has broken through to Diamond Tier Elementary Grade. The Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction's Dragon Breath of Annihilation has been strengthened. The Dragon Might of the Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction has been strengthened. The Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction has comprehended the Growth-type Draconic spell, Extraordinary Tier Fire Elemental Control, from Draconic Magic Mastery. The Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction has comprehended the Growth-type Draconic spell, Meteorite Descent, from Draconic Magic Mastery. The Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction has awakened the Dragon King avatar from the inheritance of the dragons. The Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction has awakened the Nirvana Volcano from the inheritance of the dragons. The Dragon King of Volcano and Destruction's Epic Tier Elemental Immunity and Epic Tier Physical Immunity awakening rate has increased from 50% to 70%. Nazario has finally advanced. I have another trump card now. Zhou Zhou sighed when he saw this. Nazario had been stuck at the White Platinum Tier Advanced grade for a long time. Today, it has finally advanced. Nazario's strength had increased greatly after breaking through to the Diamond Tier Elementary grade. It was probably only a little weaker than the Epic Tier Elementary grade Knight Rakshasa Sword God, Suan now. Nazario might not lose to Suan even if it used all its trump cards. Suan's strength and hero fate level slot might be 2 major levels higher than Nazario's. But Suan did not have any human bloodline inheritance in his body after all. Nazario's bloodline contained the inheritance of the dragons as vast as the starry sky. That was the accumulation of the inheritance of countless eras of the dragon race. Naturally, they could not underestimate it. Regarding this, Zhou Zhou, who also had the dragon inheritance, knew best. At this moment, Suan, who had already recovered his main body, also looked at Nazario, which had broken through to the Diamond Tier Elementary grade. A solemn expression appeared in his eyes. This was because he actually felt danger from the other party. A hero born of a pure-blooded dragon is indeed terrifying, Suan thought. However, he was naturally not afraid. At this moment, after Nazario broke through, it immediately flew to the spaceship where Zhou Zhou was and looked at him with joy and excitement. Zhou Zhou smiled when he saw this. Then, he flew out of the spaceship and came in front of Nazario. He touched its forehead. Nazario closed his eyes, looking like he was enjoying himself. Ow! In the distance, the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, looked at it enviously, but there was nothing it could do. It was at the yellow gold tier advanced grade when it was born, but as a legendary dragon, it needed several times more advancement energy than a dragon hero of the same level. Even with the white platinum tier blessing of the war god, it would take some time for it to advance to the white platinum tier elementary grade. Therefore, it could only watch helplessly as Nazario enjoyed Zhou Zhou's pats. A moment later, the battlefield was cleaned up. Zhou Zhou brought all the soldiers back to the back Starry Night. In the Starry Night, in the conference room, Zhou Zhou, Bai Yun, Wu Xian, Feng Luo, Suan, Wu Tu, and the other alliance masters were holding a meeting. All the lords were excited. They had just eliminated the top lord of all races, the strongest lord of the Machina race after all. In the past, such lords were used as conversation topics on the World Channel. They did not expect to fight the other party today and even destroy it. Some of the lords could not help but feel excited at the thought of them participating in this battle. I didn't expect us to really destroy Lord Father. It feels like a dream. What does it have to do with you? Isn't it all because of the Lord's main force and Suin? Haha, you're right. However, even though I didn't do much, it was already very satisfying to participate in the spectating. That's right, that's right. Oh my god. I was dumbfounded when that General Su Onming became such a big presence. That feeling was like watching a movie. General Su is indeed ridiculously strong. No, it should be said that every subordinate of the Lord is very strong. Did you see so many dragons in the Lord? In my opinion, what's the big deal about the Dragon God Lord? How can he have so many dragons? The title of Dragon God Lord should be given to the Lord. I was lucky enough to encounter the Dragon God Lord on the Myriad Races Lord battlefield once at the beginning. The Dragon God Lord indeed doesn't have as many dragons under him as the Lord. The lords discussed animatedly. Zhou Zhou ignored their discussion and sat in the main seat, thinking, I'm already much ahead of the true Lord and the others with ranking points. There's still an entire afternoon before the end of the final battlefield. I'm not in a hurry to use the compass of the soul of vengeance to find a top lord of all races to increase my points. Then let's sweep through the weaker lords first. Try to obtain as many Lord Talent Crystal fragments as possible. Zhou Zhou quickly made a decision. Obtaining a large number of Lord Talent fragments in the final battlefield was also one of his goals in the final battlefield. He might not meet such a good opportunity again soon. In any case, there was enough time now. He could also let his Lord members complete the insight defection activity that they had been thinking about. Everyone, there are still nearly 6 hours before the end of the final battlefield. In the next 3 hours, you can use your insight defection. However, everyone must return on time in 3 hours. Don't be late. When the time comes, I'll bring everyone to meet another top-notch lord. Zhou Zhou said. Okay. Don't worry, Alliance Master. We'll be back on time. Which top-notch lord are we dealing with this time? A lord asked curiously. Heaven-chasing lord. Zhou Zhou had no intention of hiding anything and said directly. Actually, he also wanted to meet the true lord, or the Great One Lord. However, he had never fought these two top lords of all races, so even the compass of the soul of vengeance could not give him directions. Therefore, he could only settle for the next best thing and face his old opponent, the Heaven-chasing Lord. The last battle with the Heaven-chasing Lord left a deep impression on Zhou Zhou. At that time, even though the other party only had 4 subjects, Zhou Zhou and the others had to use their trump cards frequently to obtain a difficult victory with the terrifying power of laws. His strength was already much higher than before. The other party would definitely develop stronger. He did not know what the outcome of this battle would be. Depart. Zhou Zhou ordered without thinking too much. Then, they split into 3 teams again like yesterday. Among them, the Lords of the Lord Alliance brought 7 Starry Night spaceships to incite defection. Zhou Zhou brought the 3 spaceships and the soldiers in his territory to fight the Lords of all races. In Starry Night, Zhou Zhou and Linger were here. Linger had just used incite defection on Lord Father, so she did not follow the other lords to incite defection. Instead, she stayed with Zhou Zhou. Big brother, we haven't been alone together for a long time. Linger looked up at Zhou Zhou and said happily. That's right. Zhou Zhou smiled and stroked her hair. The two of them chatted for a while before Zhou Zhou said, Linger, I have a small request. If you're unwilling, you don't have to agree to it. Zhou Zhou said, I agree. Linger agreed without even asking. Zhou Zhou could not help but laugh. However, he still told her his request. I want the Machina race soldiers from your insight defection just now. I can compensate you with something else. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and took out 100,000 diamond tier mist cores from the heavenly mist treasure bag at his waist. He placed them in a small spatial ring and handed them to Linger. There was naturally no need to mention the mist cores. The total value of 100,000 diamond tier mist cores was naturally more than 32,000 Machina race soldiers. As for spatial rings, the Cerulean planet lords were not short of them. During this period of time, as the lord of the Cerulean planet developed, many goods gradually appeared in the world channel marketplace, including storage items like the spatial ring. Therefore, Even though the spatial ring was still a relatively rare resource in the marketplace, as long as there were enough mist cores, it was quite easy to buy a spatial ring with more than 10 to 20 small spaces. Zhou Zhou now had more than 100 spatial rings as backup. The generals and important officials under his command basically each had a spatial ring. Big brother, you gave me my insight defection. If you need those Machina race soldiers, just take them. You're my big brother. I don't want to turn this into a transaction. Linger lowered her head and whispered after hearing Zhou Zhou's words. Zhou Zhou was stunned. Linger actually thought so? He did not think too much about it. He just did not want the people close to him to suffer, even if he had to suffer some losses. Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and suddenly asked, "Do you have anything your parents gave you?" "Mom and Dad bought me my old clothes. Is that okay?" Linger was stunned and replied, "Yes." Zhou Zhou smiled and put away the 100,000 diamond tier mist cores. "Since Linger says so, I won't give you these mist cores this time. But if you need anything in the future, you must tell me, okay?" Zhou Zhou stroked her head and said, perhaps it was because he had no relatives in this world, but he would always subconsciously feel sorry for and take care of this innocent little sister. Fortunately, this little sister was also adorable and did not let him down. Yup. Linger nodded vigorously, her bright and clear eyes smiling into crescents. Clearly, she was very happy that her brother did not give her the mist core. Then, she did not say anything else and immediately went to look for the 32,000 Machina race soldiers she had instigated. Zhou Zhou looked at Linger, who was jumping away, and thought to himself, in the future, when he had extra Holy Spirit tier Faith Divine crystals, he would use Linger's parents' belongings to revive her parents. Let Linger have her own family again. Even though they had yet to confirm whether Linger's parents were alive or dead, Linger was already quite famous on the World Channel as his supplier of medicinal herbs. In addition, Linger had even posted her photo on her trading stall in order to look for her parents because she wanted them to see it. If Linger's parents were still alive, they would definitely come looking for her after knowing about her. Since they had yet to look for her, they should no longer be amongst the living now. However, he had the means to revive them now. In the future, as long as the Holy Spirit level Faith Divine crystals were in place, it would not be a problem for him even if they were really dead. He could just revive them directly. As for Zhou Zhou's relatives, it was impossible. He was a transmigrator himself. On the surface, his hometown was the cerulean planet, but his real hometown was Earth. Even though the two of them were like parallel universes, Zhou Zhou accepted the fact that he was already homeless after returning to his hometown once and realizing that his parents were not there. However, Zhou Zhou was not discouraged. If he could become a god in the future and even become the lord of all races, he might be able to transmigrate back to his hometown and see his parents, relatives, and friends again. This was also one of the reasons why he could persevere in this world and pursue becoming stronger. A moment later, Linger brought more than 32,000 Machina race soldiers over. Zhou Zhou did not waste his breath when he saw this. He directly held a handover with Linger and turned them into subjects of the Blazing Sun territory. Linger knew that her big brother was going to be busy, so she found an excuse to leave. When Zhou Zhou saw this, his gaze landed on the Machina race again. These Machina races had different forms. There were attack-type mechanical soldiers, long-range attack mechanical soldiers, reconnaissance mechanical soldiers, aerial combat mechanical soldiers, self-destructing mechanical soldiers, and also logistical mechanical soldiers. Zhou Zhou nodded slightly. The configuration was quite complete. Then, with a thought, he saw a silver-robed Zhou Zhou appear beside him. It was his Machina race clone ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou. Can the computing power of these Machina race soldiers together allow you to complete the remaining research of the Apocalypse satellite for? Zhou Zhou asked. It's not that simple. Before that, I still need to create the grand unified core energy first. Then, I'll use it to advance quickly. You'll be in charge of the materials needed. The Ultimate Lord, Zhou Zhou, said calmly. Sure. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. What he did not lack the most now was the Mist Core. It could easily satisfy the needs of the Ultimate Lord, Zhou Zhou. Now, I'll place their programming and computing power under my ultimate algorithm. The ultimate lord, Zhou Zhou, said. Then, he extended his right hand. A faint purple ripple dissipated from his hand. In the blink of an eye, it covered the 32,154 Machina race soldiers in front of him. The silver light in the eyes of these Machina race soldiers instantly flashed. After a long time, they stopped and calmed down. All right, but the computing power is too little. With these computing power, even if my strength increases to the extraordinary tier, I can only complete technological research below the yellow-gold tier at most. The ultimate lord, Zhou Zhou, felt the computing power he had mastered and frowned slightly. Then, they looked at Zhou Zhou. Main body. If nothing goes wrong, the mechanical bodies of the Machina race soldiers who died should drop some blueprints for mechanical intelligent life forms after extracting the loots. If possible, try to use those intelligent life form blueprints to create more intelligent life forms of the Machina race so that I can unify them and master more computing power. Also, the Gold Merchant Lord has previously provided Machina race monsters like the mechanical Fear Falcon. It also means that there is a Machina race kingdom near his territory. If there's a chance, I can go to this Machina race kingdom to take a look. Then, I can find a Machina race faction to incite defection a few more times. This way, I can definitely obtain a large number of intelligent life forms of the Machina race. My computing power can also increase rapidly. Ultimate Lord Zhou quickly proposed these two plans. I'll think about it. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows and nodded. Ultimate Lord Zhou also nodded. Oh yes. Can you use this? Zhou Zhou took out the mid-level god-tier advanced grade hero inheritance secret manual dropped by Lord Father and showed it to the Ultimate Lord, Zhou Zhou. Ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou took it and looked. I can give it a try. Try it. Zhou Zhou was really looking forward to it. He had long wanted a hero slot, but he was not satisfied with the hero inheritance of a low-level fate level. Therefore, even though he had handled so many hero inheritances, he had never used any of them. Now that he had his Machina race clone and this mid-level god-tier advanced grade hero inheritance secret manual, he could give it a try and let his clone have the hero fate level slot. Moreover, with Ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou's Machina race talent, it was not impossible for him to advance his hero fate level slot with his own ability in the future. Let's try it tonight. I'm still needed in the final battlefield today. The Ultimate Lord, Zhou Zhou, shook his head. Just as well. Zhou Zhou nodded and gave him 10 spatial rings with the largest space to store the items he needed. After the Ultimate Lord took them, he did not mind and put them on his 10 fingers. After bringing it along, the Ultimate Lord, Zhou Zhou, immediately had the temperament of an upstart. However, he did not care. Zhou Zhou only smiled and did not say anything. In the time that followed, Zhou Zhou led the soldiers to conquer the lord factions of all races that Wenya had discovered along the way. As the current number 1 lord of the final battlefield, naturally, none of the lord forces he encountered were his match. Most of the lord factions of the myriad races would shatter with a single touch against his Blazing Sun army, Monster army, and Dragon God army. Even if some of the stronger lords of the myriad races could fight him for a round or two, it would only cause them a little trouble and casualties. If they were a little serious, they would be easily crushed by them. During this period, Zhou Zhou could not help but feel his hands itching. He personally commanded 200,000 soldiers to form the Greedy Wolf avatar to gallop on the battlefield a few times. From the looks of it, his proficiency was not inferior to Wu Xian, Bai Yun, and the others at all. Even Wu Xian, who had mastered the Greedy Wolf Howling Moon array the earliest, praised his lord for his excellent talent in military formations when he saw the formations that his master led. He even said that if the lord could invest more time in the military formation, he would definitely be able to surpass him in the future and become a super military array master. This was naturally not Curry favoring. Instead, it was what Wu Xian said from the bottom of his heart. However, Zhou Zhou was not interested. He was like an ancient emperor. Occasionally, he could lead troops on expeditions himself, but which emperor would personally lead an expedition every day? That was not only irresponsible to his own safety, but it was also irresponsible to his country and subjects. Moreover, Zhou Zhou had a lord talent like the king of lutes that could grow infinitely. He could well at the back of the battlefield so that he could bring his subjects and territory further. That was the greatest responsibility to his subjects and territory. Therefore, Zhou Zhou returned to the spaceship after personally dealing with a few lord factions of the myriad races. For the rest of the time, they did not encounter any big trouble. Honestly, this disappointed Zhou Zhou. He was still thinking of, coincidentally, encountering a few mythical tier lords of all races and earning a lot of basic ranking scores in the final battlefield. In the end, he only encountered small fish and shrimps. The highest ranking score they brought him was only 7 to 800 million. They were not like Lord Father, who was ranked in the top 10 of the myriad races, who gave him more than 10 billion points at once. The board Zhou Zhou opened Suan's assassination livestream again. Soon, Zhou Zhou began to watch with relish. After becoming a hero, Suan's efficiency in assassinating lords increased by a few levels again. He easily exceeded Zhou Zhou's efficiency. Suan had already assassinated nearly 100 lord factions during the time when Zhou Zhou conquered the 10 lord factions. Even though Suan only assassinated lords and did not do anything else, unlike Zhou Zhou, who was in charge of cleaning up the battlefield after destroying all the members of the lord faction of the myriad races. However, it could be seen how efficient Suan's assassination was. 3 hours later, Zhou Zhou ended his hunt for the lords of all races and began to return on their spaceship, preparing to meet up with the lords of the Star Alliance. In the conference room, "I've something to report, my lord." During this period of time, we've eliminated a total of 366 lord factions and killed about 22 million enemy troops under the lord of all races. Knight Rakshasa Sword God Su and has killed a total of 3,450 lords in these 3 hours. All their corpses have been extracted, and the loots have been placed in a separate warehouse according to the lord's request. Bai Yun could not help but exclaim when she reported. They had only eliminated 366 lord factions with all their might. However, Suan had killed nearly 10 times the lords of all races alone. As expected of the strongest among them, Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. It was not in vain that he had fought for the hero inheritance for Suan. He felt that he had already made a profit from today's gains alone. He wondered how many Lord Talent crystal fragments could be extracted from the corpses of these people of foreign races. Could it advance his Lord Talent, the blessing of the War Master God tier? A moment later, Zhou Zhou and the lords of the Star Alliance gathered together again. Then, Zhou Zhou held another meeting. In the conference room, "How was your gain?" Hearing this question, the lords looked at each other and smiled. Then, he saw Nong Chunlin walk over with a list and hand it to him respectfully. "This is the summary data of the insight defection results of all the lords of the Star Alliance today. My lord, please take a look," he said respectfully. Zhou Zhou took it and read it. Then, a smile appeared on his face. Today, the 311 lords under his command who had mastered insight defection actually had a total of 4,151,160 fog monsters. If that was the case, just 20% of their military strength, they would give him 832,232 fog monsters. With these 20% of his military strength, the number of soldiers under his command would directly break through to more than 2.4 million. The total number of troops controlled by the Star Alliance Masters would reach more than 5.92 million. The total military strength that Zhou Zhou could control now would reach more than 8.4 million. Thinking of this, Zhou Zhou could not help but take a deep breath. In the next 2 days, wouldn't the total military strength he could control easily exceed 10 million if his lords worked harder? Zhou Zhou had never encountered an intermediate grade kingdom before. However, ordinary intermediate grade kingdoms should only have about this amount of military strength, right? Zhou Zhou thought to himself. After a long time, only then did he calm down and remember that he was still on the battlefield. What I should care about now is to protect my first place. Zhou Zhou reminded himself silently and looked at the lords in front of him. Everyone. Next, let's go meet that heaven-chasing lord, he said solemnly. Okay. My monster soldiers' sabers are already thirsty. Let's just do it. Not only were the lords not afraid at all, they even responded enthusiastically. The extreme venerable lord surrendered first. After Lord Father was defeated, even though the heaven-chasing lord's ranking was slightly higher than the extreme venerable lord and Lord Father, they did not have any fear after the impact of the two victories. Just as the lords had said, just do it. Then, Zhou Zhou discussed with the lords about dealing with the heaven-chasing lord before disbanding the meeting. Then he took out the compass of the soul of vengeance. Zhou Zhou sighed regretfully as he looked at the remaining two tries. This compass of the soul of vengeance was indeed useful. Unfortunately, there was a limit to the number of times he could guide them. After the previous two guidances, it only had two guidances left. I might be able to try upgrading the Scavenger Lord talent and see if I can increase the number of times I can use it after the guidance is used up. Zhou Zhou thought. As a green bronze tier Lord talent, the Scavenger did not need many Lord talent crystal fragments to level up. He could give it a try. Then, he stopped thinking about it and looked at the compass of the soul of vengeance in front of him. He took a deep breath and said, "The great soul of vengeance. I want to take revenge on someone. Can you give me guidance so that I know its location?" 3 seconds later. Whoosh. The compass moved slightly, and then a large amount of blood-colored fog dissipated from the compass. Zhou Zhou watched this scene calmly. A pair of blood-colored eyes slowly appeared from the blood fog. He stared at Zhou Zhou. "Chaos human. Tell me, who is the enemy you want to take revenge on?" The soul of vengeance's familiar voice sounded. "The enemy I want to take revenge on is Lord of the Shepherd's God race, heaven-chasing Lord," Zhou Zhou said. The soul of vengeance replied in a low voice. "I have given guidance. Go on." With that, the pair of blood-colored eyes slowly disappeared into the blood fog. Then, the blood fog quickly retracted into the compass, and the entire conference room returned to its previous appearance. Zhou Zhou's gaze landed on the compass in his hand again. The blood-colored needle on the compass began to slowly spin again like he was familiar with. In the end, it pointed north. Seeing this, a will-o-wisp appeared in his heart. The heaven-chasing lord was 17,625 kilometers to the southeast. Looks like the heaven-chasing lord ran faster than me, Zhou Zhou thought to himself and heaved a sigh of relief. This direction was the direction away from the violent storm. It seemed that he did not have to worry about approaching the violent storm because he was chasing after the heaven-chasing lord. Then, he told Wenya this location and asked her to control the crowd control spaceship to chase after the heaven-chasing lord. Boom. The 11 starry nights and the 20 deep blue stalker captured from Lord Father instantly erupted with their maximum speed and flew north with all their might. A moment later, Zhou Zhou looked at the stacks of mechanical technology blueprints of the Machina race in front of him. They were the 4 spoils of war that the soldiers had obtained after extracting the mechanical bodies of the Machina race. They were Giant Axe Ripper Series Offensive Machina Race Soldier Manufacturing Blueprint, Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade, White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Cannon Man Series Long Range Attack Machina Race Soldier Manufacturing Blueprint, Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade, White Platinum Tier Elementary Grade. Shadow Eagle Series Aerial Reconnaissance and Combat Machina Race Soldier Manufacturing Blueprint, Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade, Yellow Gold Tier Advanced Grade. There were a total of 43 of these 4 blueprints, including the mechanical technology blueprints of Machina Race soldiers from Green Bronze Tier Elementary Grade to White Platinum Tier Advanced Grade. Zhou Zhou was curious for a while before sharing it with the Ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou. Ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou did not stand on ceremony. After it was recorded in its skill list, it directly ordered Wenya to buy the corresponding materials to make these Machina Race soldiers. It also began to build the manufacturing factory for the corresponding Machina Race soldiers in the territory of the Blazing Sun territory. At the same time, it also asked Wenya to collect the technological information of the Cerulean planet civilization in the marketplace through Linger. This technological knowledge of the Cerulean planet civilization was originally compiled by the Lord of the Cerulean planet himself. His initial goal was only to earn a living. Even though the price had increased slightly, it did not increase much. It had only been less than a month since they relocated to the high continent. Most of the Cerulean planet lords were still thinking about how to strengthen their forces and increase the level of their territory, or even the basic problem of how to survive. As for recreating or even continuing to develop the technological civilization of the Cerulean planet, other than a very small number of top Cerulean planet lords like the military industry lord, the other lords were almost in no mood to do such a thing. It was the cheapest time for Ultimate Lord Zhou Zhou to buy the technological knowledge of the Cerulean planet. It was very ambitious. Not only did it want to absorb the Machina race's technology civilization in this world, but it also wanted to absorb the technological inheritance of the Cerulean planet civilization. Most importantly, with its ultimate algorithm talent, it was entirely capable of it. It would not even take long for the Ultimate Lord, Zhou Zhou, was confident that he could surpass the military industry lord, who had been researching in this area and had made contributions. After about half an hour, Zhou Zhou and the others finally saw their target. At this moment, the Lord of the Shepherd's God race was clearly stronger than the last time Zhou Zhou saw him on the Myriad Race's Lord battlefield. From afar, the number of members of the Shepherd's God race who had mastered the power of the law alone had increased from 4 to 8. Moreover, they also brought the Lord Alliance formed by more than 100 people of foreign race lords. There were more than 1,000,000 soldiers under their command. Zhou Zhou's eyes lit up as he looked at the people of foreign race lords. Even if he could not defeat the heaven-chasing lord this time, Zhou Zhou felt that this trip would not be in vain if he could deal with these people of foreign races. Actually, it was very common for such a powerful lord to bring his Lord Alliance members and subordinates to the final battlefield. Especially today, a lot of lords from the Lord Alliance appeared. The other lords were not stupid and could naturally think of what Zhou Zhou had thought of after all. This was also the reason why Zhou Zhou and Su and had killed 3,816 people of foreign race lords in 3 hours. They were simply piled up together. Zhou Zhou and the others could kill dozens or even hundreds of people of foreign race lords with a single move. How could they not be fast? Speaking of which, even though they had finally found the heaven-chasing lord, Zhou Zhou did not act rashly. This was because the heaven-chasing lord was leading his 8 Shepherds God race and Alliance master members to fight another lord faction and was at a disadvantage. What surprised Zhou Zhou the most was that there were actually only 2 existences in this lord faction. One of them flickered with lightning. The other one flickered with a transparent ripple light, giving people a strange sense of spatial dislocation. Zhou Zhou and the others could not see their faces clearly because of the obstruction of the light. However, what shocked Zhou Zhou was that when he saw these 2 existences, the Dragon Slayer King will in his body trembled with the greatest intensity in history. It was as if they had encountered an incomparably terrifying existence with bloodlines, but the essence of their bloodlines drove the Dragon Slayer King's will to fight and kill until it completely tore apart this bloodline existence. Zhou Zhou asked the other soldiers through the army interface if they felt the same. The soldiers responded one after another, saying that they had the same feeling, but their combat urge was not as strong as Zhou Zhou's. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. Logically speaking, the higher the level of the enemy's bloodline, the more intense the reaction between the dragon-slaying king's will and the dragon-slaying will. And even a top race like the Shepherd's God race doesn't give the Dragon Slayer King will in my body such an impulse. Thinking of this, his gaze landed on the 2 existences covered in light. He could not see the other party's information, which meant that they also had equipment to hide their information. However, combined with the information about the top lord of all races that the extreme Dragon Horus had told him, Zhou Zhou was almost certain of his identity. Original Spirit Race True Lord. Zhou Zhou took a deep breath. As for the special light emitted around the other party's body, it should be their divine power. According to Horus, as the race with the strongest bloodline in the endless heavens, the original spirit race was born with a small world and was born with the resources of a small world. There were even some small worlds of the original spirit race that had the ability to nurture life forms when they were first born. Therefore, when the original spirit race was born, they could use the small world as the foundation to nurture their faith and create their own world god divine spark. With the help of their ancestors, they could even immigrate some normal life forms from the outside world to their small world to increase the power of faith in the original spirit race's small world, thereby indirectly increasing the level of their divine power. This was the terror of the original spirit race. Compared to this, as a chaos god race second only to the original spirit race, even though they also had a chaos divine vessel when they were born, however, this chaotic divine vessel was actually not special. It only represented that their initial divine power was chaotic and did not have any specific law stats. They could only comprehend their own law path and divine vessel stats after they grew up. One only had the initial divinity. The other was born with a world and could easily possess a divine spark. He was a natural world god. The difference between the two could be said to be obvious. Only two. Zhou Zhou looked at the two original spirit races and immediately had the urge to kill them. However, he suppressed this urge suddenly. Let's sit this one out and reap the spoils later. I'll come out to reap the benefits after the victor emerges from the true Lord and the heaven-chasing Lord's battle. Zhou Zhou thought to himself. Then, he quietly ordered all the Starry Knights to use spatial concealment and hide in the spatial mezzanine, waiting for the battle between the two top lords of all races to end. Then, Zhou Zhou began to observe the battle between the two through the virtual screen. The heaven-chasing lord led the 8 shepherds god race subjects under his command and the million-odd soldiers of the Lord Alliance to pounce on the two original spirit races. More than 1,000,000 soldiers released all kinds of martial techniques, spells, elemental attacks, soul attacks, technological attacks, and other attacks. Moreover, there were also nomological attacks released by 8 shepherds god race members that swept towards the two original spirit race members. The dense attacks seemed to have hung a 7-colored galaxy in the blood-colored sky. However, not only was this 7-colored galaxy beautiful, but it also contained incomparably terrifying danger. He did not even plan to dodge. Just as the 7-colored galaxy was about to land on the two original spirit race beings. Then, a pitch-black spatial rift that was 1,000 feet tall suddenly appeared out of thin air in front of him. The next second, the spatial rift suddenly erupted with an extremely powerful suction force. Then, under the dumbfounded gazes of all the Shepherd's God race soldiers, the terrifying attacks released by their million-odd soldiers and Shepherd's God race people were all sucked into the spatial rift and disappeared. After doing this, the 1,000-foot-tall spatial rift slowly fused and finally disappeared. As for the original spirit race, it was as if they had never done anything. They were still calmly floating in the air. Behind the battlefield, when the heaven-chasing Lord saw this scene, his expression immediately changed, then gradually became gloomy. These two guys seemed to have become stronger again. In the past, when we fought in the myriad races Lord battlefield, their world could only absorb attacks that were not laws. An attack on the power of laws can only weaken it. It can't be directly absorbed like it is now. When the heaven-chasing Lord thought of this, his expression became even uglier. Controlling the power of laws was their God-Shepherd race's best and strongest method. Now that their strongest methods were countered by the other party, they could be said to have no chance of winning. The heaven-chasing Lord knew that its trip to the final battlefield would probably end here. Not only did he not panic, he even calmed down. Just as well. He looked at the true Lord. True Lord, I lost this time. However, the Lord of all races competition has just begun. We'll have another chance to fight. After the heaven-chasing Lord finished speaking, it looked in Zhou Zhou's direction and sneered. Then, it took out a scroll and threw it into the sky. Then, the scroll quickly expanded to more than 10 kilometers long. It was engraved with the sun, moon, stars, mountains, rivers, and peaks. It lay across the blood-colored sky, looking like it covered the sky. The next second, the sun, moon, mountain, river drawing emitted a dazzling white light that could illuminate the world. After the light dissipated, Zhou Zhou and the others looked over with the original spirit race. The heaven-chasing Lord had already disappeared with all its subjects and members of the Lord Alliance. The sun, moon, mountain, river drawing also disappeared. He ran away again. The god of thunder and dark clouds Ansel felt that if they could kill all these lords who had escaped, why would the lord of the blazing sun of the human race be ranked above them on the rankings of the final battlefield? Ansel, calm down. The lords of all races who dare to stay in the final battlefield at this time must have their own trump cards. We don't need to be surprised. It's not like we didn't get anything. At least we forced the other party to use a life-saving trump card. After the true lord, or rather, the god of space and time, Adam, finished speaking, his gaze landed on the space where Zhou Zhou's spaceship was. Now let's welcome our next opponent. Lord of the blazing sun. Time is limited in the final battlefield. Come out quickly. Do I have to invite you to start? Adam said loudly. In the starry night. Zhou Zhou was not surprised when he heard the true lord's words. He was already mentally prepared that the other party could see through the spatial concealment of his spaceship. The heaven-chasing lord seemed to have seen through it previously after all. It was just a pity that he did not succeed in the end. Then, he directly ordered Wenya to bring all the spaceships out of the spatial mezzanine and appear in front of the two original spirit race members. Not bad. As expected of a lord who reached the top of the rankings as a human. Now that I look at it, you've indeed surpassed all our lords in the development of your territory. Adam swept his gaze around and could tell the level of the human soldiers in the spaceship and the equipment they had. Even though he was experienced and knowledgeable, he could not help but be a little surprised. There were actually more than 2,000 extraordinary tier soldiers alone. There was even an epic tier elementary grade human hero. The equipment was also quite complete. The development speed of the territory behind this was simply exaggerated. Those who did not know better would probably think that the other party had transmigrated back from the future. Still, even if this human lord in front of him really transmigrated back from the future, he still had to defeat him and take away his ranking points. The reward for being the strongest lord in the myriad races lord battlefield. He was determined to obtain it. You flatter me. But no matter how nice you make it sound. Today, I want to try killing a god too. Zhou Zhou added. The two of them looked at each other and smiled. The next second, kill. Kill. The same words sounded from Zhou Zhou and the true lord almost at the same time. Then, the subjects on both sides instantly rushed towards each other. A fight was on the verge of breaking out. Zhou Zhou's side had more than 8 million soldiers. This included human soldiers, soldiers of the people of foreign races, and fog monster soldiers. At this moment, they were charging towards the true lord and his subject, the god of thunder and dark clouds Ansel. Facing this scene, even though these two original spirit race members were experienced and knowledgeable, they could not help but be stunned for a moment. Then, they returned to their senses. What's the use of having more people? Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, sneered. Then, with a thought, a 1,000-foot tall spatial rift appeared in front of him again. One of the talents of the original spirit race world fisher. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. An incomparable suction force erupted from it and swept towards the 8 million soldiers. This familiar scene made many soldiers of the Alliance Master reveal terrified expressions. They had just seen this 1,000-foot-tall spatial rift easily absorb the attacks of the more than 1 million soldiers without injuring the other party at all. Could they really deal with this method? They thought to themselves. At this moment, only the soldiers under Zhou Zhou's command were not afraid at all when they saw the world fisher. Instead, their expressions became even fiercer. They had followed Zhou Zhou in battles for a long time and had experienced hundreds of battles of all sizes. In these hundreds of battles, they, who had almost never lost, had long developed an invincible will. Therefore, even if they had to face such a strange method now, they were not afraid at all and would only think of a way to resolve it. Even if he could not think of a way, they also believed that the invincible lords and generals would lead them to break through the current hurdle and obtain the final victory. That was indeed the case. In the next moment, howl, howl, howl. 3 divine wolf howls that seemed to come from the stars sounded. Then, 3 greedy wolf avatars formed by 600,000 low-level soldiers flew out of the army under the control of Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and Luo Sheng. Moonfall. The world suddenly darkened. 3 illusory blood-colored full moons suddenly appeared in the sky and fell towards the world fissure. Rumble. The 3 blood-colored full moons were extremely fast and collided with the world fissure in the blink of an eye. The world fissure shook slightly and actually had the intention of closing. Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, raised his eyebrows and thought. The lightning and dark cloud divine power on his body quickly flew towards the world fissure and fused into it. After fusion, the world crack that was about to fuse actually stabilized again and even began to expand. At this moment, Zhou Zhou, the soul arrow, suddenly drew an ice blue bow from his back. Then, he drew his bow and drew his arrow. Countless cold air condensed and finally condensed into an ice arrow on his ice bow. Fake hero skill grade ice seal. As the arrow condensed, the surrounding soldiers all felt a chill. This cold did not come from his body. Instead, it came from the coldness of his soul. Fake hero skill grade ice seal. It came from one of the 2 hero skills of the soul arrow grade ice seal. As the true hero skill grade ice seal could only be used with the help of an epic tier intermediate grade equipment, the Snow Goddess's Chant. There was this equipment, but because its grade was too high, Wu Tu, who was only at the diamond tier elementary grade, naturally could not use it. However, Wu Tu was the soul arrow hero himself after all. In his hero inheritance, even though he could not use the true hero skill grade ice seal, he could still use slightly weaker equipment to use the fake great ice seal that had its power reduced by half. For example, the current scene. As soon as Wu Tu let go, the fake great ice seal immediately turned into a snow-white stream of light and shot towards Ansel. However, Ansel, as a bloodline extraordinary tier who had mastered divine power in advance, reacted extremely quickly. With a thought. Rumble. A dark blue lightning mixed with divine power shot out of his hand and exploded at the ice arrow. The 2 flew towards each other and were about to collide. At this moment, the ice arrow actually disappeared into thin air. This divine power lightning shot directly at Wu Tu, the soul arrow behind the arrow. Wu Tu looked at this scene and was about to use the flying arrow clone technique to escape. At this moment, a huge silver figure arrived in front of him at an extremely fast speed and grabbed the divine power lightning with its claws. Rumble. The divine power lightning exploded in the dragon claw, turning it into a bloody mess. How are you? I'll bring you for treatment? Wu Tu hurriedly said. It's okay. Extreme Dragon Horus frowned as he looked at the wound on his dragon claw, thinking that the strength of these 2 original spirit race members had actually become stronger again. Then, it circulated the energy in its body to its injured dragon claw. The injuries on this dragon claw quickly recovered, and in the blink of an eye, it was back to normal. Wu Tu looked at this scene in surprise. He could feel that the divine power lightning was extremely powerful, but the dragon in front of him had actually recovered so easily? The physical body of the extreme dragon race is enough to be ranked in the top 5 among the life forms of all races. It's just a divine power lightning. It won't cause much damage to me. Horus shook his head. Previously, it was a super lord that could fight a top lord of all races after all. It was naturally easy for it to deal with a divine power lightning. Wu Tu nodded and looked at Ansel in the distance. Ansel felt a sense of danger after the ice arrow disappeared. He was just about to be vigilant of his surroundings when the ice arrow appeared behind him's head out of thin air. Soul Arrow Hero Skill Heaven and Earth Heart Arrow. With the heart as the eye, with the arrow as the end. No arrow would not reach where the heart went. As long as the soul arrow Wu Tu saw or felt, his arrow could appear there. That was why this snow arrow appeared behind Ansel's head out of thin air. At such a close distance, even Ansel could not react in time. The ice arrow shot into his body at lightning speed. At this moment, not only had the power of the lightning around him decreased greatly, even the world crack in front of him suddenly became unstable because of this attack. Click, 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 click. With the sound of space collapsing, The world fissure began to quickly shrink and finally disappeared into the air. Accompanied by the disappearance was the incomparable suction force it emitted. Without this terrifying suction force, Zhou Zhou and the 8 million soldiers of the Star Alliance were no longer afraid. He would take his life while he was down. Without any hesitation, they charged at the two original spirit races again. At the same time, Zhou Zhou also attacked just as more than 8 million soldiers rushed towards the True Lords and the others, and the god of thunder and dark clouds Ansel's soul was temporarily frozen by the fake Great Eye Seal. He extended his right hand and aimed his palm at the two original spirit race beings. Yellow Gold Tier Lord Talent, Insight Defection, Activate, Boom. An invisible fluctuation covered them in the blink of an eye. The True Lord raised his eyebrows slightly. Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, trembled in front of him. On the other side, after Zhou Zhou activated Insight Defection, he looked at the Lord Talent hint. Prompt: you have activated your Lord's exclusive talent, Insight Defection. Insight Defection has taken effect. Lord Talent Notification. A total of one original spirit race has betrayed its Lord faction and become your loyal subordinate. A smile appeared on his face. Even though there was only one life form in Insight Defection this time, however, this guy was from the original spirit race. The race with the strongest bloodline among the life forms of all races. Getting him was almost equivalent to getting a god-tier talent who had already obtained a god spirit pass. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Zhou was very satisfied. It was not in vain that he had kept his Insight Defection ability unused until now. However, what happened the next moment made his expression suddenly change. The transparent ripple light around Adam, the god of space and time, who was standing behind Ansel, suddenly spread rapidly in all directions. In the blink of an eye, it covered an area within a kilometer. Within this range, he seemed to have opened up a world of his own. All the soldiers who rushed to the edge of this world disappeared into thin air. Zhou Zhou had many soldiers to begin with. Retreat. Bai Yun reacted extremely quickly and immediately ordered. At the same time, Wu Xian and Luo Sheng also ordered all the soldiers to immediately leave this transparent ripple world through the two hero skills, Desired Military Morale and Ghost God Military Morale. With the help of these two military morale skills, the more than 8 million soldiers finally retreated to a safe position after losing more than 100,000 soldiers. What powerful military control! My law skill, Exile the World, actually only obtained so little results? When the god of space and time Adam saw this scene, he could not help but raise his eyebrows. His small world was born from space-time as the foundation of the law. Therefore, he could master the divine power of space-time since he was born. He was the pseudo-god of space and time. In terms of small world talent, he could be said to be the top genius in the history of the original spirit race. He did not let down his talent. Even though the law of space was the most difficult law to comprehend, he still relied on his comprehension ability to comprehend the first space-time law skill when he received an education from the race. Then, he comprehended several hero skills in a row during his growth, shocking the entire original spirit race. All the members of the original spirit race regarded him as the hope of the race, until he became the lord of all races. This Exile the World was one of the time and space law skills that he had comprehended. It could banish all living beings close to the projection of the small world to the spatial mezzanine. The spatial mezzanine was extremely dangerous. Spatial turbulence, spatial tides, and even some strange and special void monsters could be seen everywhere. In his heart, the human soldiers who had fallen to the spatial mezzanine could be considered dead in advance. However, Zhou Zhou, who was in the distance, did not think so. After the True Lord used Exile the World, he could sense that this law skill seemed to be related to the spatial mezzanine with his perception of spatial elementals. When these soldiers who had fallen into the Exile world disappeared, Zhou Zhou thought for a moment and thought of the vague connection between the other party's law skill and the spatial mezzanine. He had a rough guess. If a normal lord were to face this scene, they would probably not be able to do anything to save these soldiers who had fallen into the spatial mezzanine. However, Zhou Zhou had 11 Star Knights that could use spatial concealment. Therefore, he immediately ordered Wenya to control all the Starry Knights to enter the spatial mezzanine through spatial concealment to search for the missing soldiers. Soon, Wenya sent a message. "My lord, the soldiers have been found. However, I only found a total of more than 80,000 soldiers and have already put them into the Starry Night. As for the other 20,000 soldiers, I only found a portion of their remains and have already put them into the spaceship." When you reported, Zhou Zhou could not help but take a deep breath when he heard Wenya's words. This was the first time he had lost so many soldiers. Try your best to collect the bodies of the soldiers and let the clergy use the small resurrection spell to revive all the soldiers who can be revived. As for the soldiers who can't even find their remnant bodies, do the appeasement job later. We must make arrangements for the pension and the care of the martyrs' families. Zhou Zhou was silent for a few seconds before making arrangements. "Yes, my lord," Wenya immediately said respectfully. Zhou Zhou nodded and looked coldly at the true lord in the distance. Outside the exile the world, Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and the others looked at the protective barrier. They all knew that if they wanted to hurt the true lord inside, they had to break through the exile the world first. Only a law skills can break through a law skill. This moment, the extreme venerable lord said in a low voice. Everyone was silent. Law skill? Other than the light sacred dragon, Ingersoll, which had mastered a law skill absolute light, no one else present seemed to have mastered it. However, absolute light was an auxiliary law skill and could not break through the exile the world in front of him. This moment, let me give it a try. The 10-directional martial emperor, Feng Luo, stood up and said. Now that Feng Luo had broken through to the extraordinary tier intermediate grade, his body was even taller and stronger. His might was as unfathomable as a martial Tao master. He looked at the exile the world in front of him and took a deep breath. Then, he raised the huge dark red extraordinary tier intermediate grade saber in his hand. Boom! A surging aura erupted from his body and swept in all directions. An extremely restrained, terrifying saber chi condensed on his huge dark red saber. This is a law skill of the law of martial arts? The extreme venerable lord could not help but exclaim in surprise when he sensed the nomological aura released by the other party. This law could only be comprehended by those martial arts fanatics with a large number of martial arts manuals. Martial artists who could comprehend it. Comprehension, temperament, foundation, and opportunities were all indispensable. He did not expect this ordinary-looking man to actually comprehend it. It did not know. Feng Luo had already obtained all the hero inheritances of the previous generation's 10-directional martial emperor, Zun Wu. He and Feng Luo were both martial arts fanatics, and Zun Wu had used the power of a country to nurture his huge martial arts foundation when he was alive. All kinds of factors combined and the accumulation of 2 generations of heroes allowed Feng Luo to comprehend this martial arts law skill when no one was paying attention. Law skill 1 blade ultimate. Feng Luo shouted. He suddenly swung his saber down. Boom! A 10,000-meter long golden saber energy slashed out. The blade was engraved with dense patterns. If normal extraordinary tier extraordinary individuals looked at it from afar, they would probably think that it was an extremely mysterious rune. However, if one took a closer look, they would realize that they were not mysterious runes at all. Instead, lines of martial arts manual words were engraved on the saber chi. This golden saber energy slashed at the exile the world. Puff! This slash cut into the transparent ripple light barrier and cut a hole in the exile the world. However, when Feng Luo wanted to take another step forward, he realized that no matter how hard he tried, he could not advance this saber energy. When Nazario saw this scene, it flew into the sky and spat out a ball of black dragon breath on the gap. Destruction dragon breath. This dragon breath specially destroyed everything that could be destroyed. After Nazario advanced to Diamond Tier Elementary Grade, the power of this destruction dragon breath was even stronger. The True Lord's Exile the World Law skill was already damaged, and the power of the law was no longer complete. Therefore, when Nazario's destruction dragon breath covered it, its gap immediately enlarged. As the gap enlarged, a blood-colored stream of light instantly shot in and rushed into the light barrier of the exile world to assassinate the true Lord. It was the Knight Rakshasa sword god Suin. He had waited for a long time for this moment. The true Lord raised his eyebrows and was about to raise his hand to deal with this uninvited guest. This moment, Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, who was originally in the great ice seal state, also tore open his disguise. Die! A ball of lightning filled with lightning divine power suddenly condensed in his hand. Then, he suddenly turned his head and looked at the true Lord with a ferocious expression. At the same time, he quickly slapped the ball of lightning in his hand towards the true Lord's chest. When the true Lord saw this scene, his calm mood finally changed. However, he could not react in time. Suan's sword had already descended from the sky. Before the true Lord could react, it cut off his head. The ball of lightning in the hand of the god of thunder and dark clouds, Ansel, also hit his body, making his body tremble and stop moving before he could even counterattack. Dead. This guy is dead? We killed the former strongest lord of all races? Oh my god, the true lord died just like that. Ha ha ha, the Alliance Master is awesome. When the members of the Alliance saw this scene, they were so excited that they could not extricate themselves. However, they did not realize that Zhou Zhou's expression was very serious. That was because he did not see a kill notification. At this moment, the world seemed to have pressed the pause button. Everyone seemed to have seen something and looked at the true Lord's corpse dumbfoundedly. The true Lord that was originally killed actually seemed to be reversing time around him. The charred part on his chest that had been injured by the divine power lightning quickly faded until it returned to normal. The blood-colored sword mark on his fatal spot also seemed to have gone back in time and quickly disappeared. Fortunately, I fixed a law skill, time reversal, on me before I came. Otherwise, I'll really die here today. The revived true Lord sighed. Then, he looked at Zhou Zhou and smiled. I've used up all the time reversal on me. This place is very dangerous. I won't stay in this dangerous place anymore. You're very powerful, even a little beyond my imagination. Actually, I have some means and trump cards, but I don't want to fight you to the death here. There's no need. It's just a reward for a small event. I'll consider it my loss this time. But the real Lord of all races competition has actually just begun. We'll decide the winner if we meet again in the future. At that time, I will definitely win. With that, he formed hand seals with both hands and chanted an incantation. Then, his body gradually disappeared from the battlefield. Zhou Zhou frowned. He took out the compass of the soul of vengeance and realized that the needle on it was spinning in all directions. Looks like he's no longer on the battlefield of the end, but is back in the real world? Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. Then, he suddenly realized something. He looked at the time first. He realized that there was less than half an hour left before the end of the final battlefield. Moreover, the true Lord had left. The heaven-chasing Lord had escaped. Lord Father and Extreme Venerable were also defeated by him. Now, the only top-notch Lord of all races that he valued in the entire battlefield was the Lord of the Chaos Gods whom he had never seen before the Great One. However, the difference in points between him and the Great One Lord was extraordinary. It was almost impossible for the Great One Lord to surpass him in ranking points when no higher-level Lord was dealt with by him. It was very difficult for the Great One Lord to surpass him by killing a large number of lords. After all, there was less than half an hour. How many could it kill? It was impossible to surpass him, which meant, I'm definitely in first place? Zhou Zhou was pleasantly surprised. Zhou Zhou pondered for a while. He felt that as long as he passed through the remaining half an hour safely, he would be able to firmly obtain the first place in the final battlefield and become the highest-ranked Lord in this Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event. From there, he would obtain the reward of the strongest Lord of all races and the title of the strongest Lord of all races. Currently, The only person in the final battlefield who can really cause me harm is the Great One Lord of the Chaos God race. Great One Lord? I've never encountered it until now. Zhou Zhou muttered to himself. This was not a good thing. Not encountering the other party meant that he did not understand the other party's methods. Once the other party had special methods and trump cards, such as race buildings like the Dragon Sacrifice Holy Tower, Zhou Zhou might really not be able to deal with them. There wouldn't be a coincidence like the Light Sacred Dragon, Ingersoll, every time. Forget it. We'll deal with whatever comes our way. Maybe I won't be able to touch the Great One Lord at all? Zhou Zhou shook his head and stopped thinking about it. At this moment, my lord, I have something urgent to report. When you suddenly said, what is it? Zhou Zhou was stunned. The speed of the violent storm surrounding us suddenly increased by 10 times. It's approaching us at an astonishing speed now. It'll be where we are in less than 5 minutes. When you trailed off, could the violent storm have also begun its final sprint because there was not much time left in the final battlefield? He thought. There was no time to think. Zhou Zhou immediately got everyone to board the spaceship and flew away from the violent storm at full speed. My lord, why are you in such a hurry? What happened? After the lords boarded the spaceship, they were all confused. They clearly did not know why Zhou Zhou was so anxious to call them to the spaceship. Zhou Zhou was about to explain. At this moment, a virtual screen suddenly appeared in front of him. He could not help but take a deep breath when he saw the scene displayed on the virtual screen. Then, he asked Wenya to project it on the large screen. A 1,000-meter-long virtual screen suddenly appeared above the interior of the spaceship. It was showing that thousands of black and gray violent storms were connected to each other further away from the starry night. Some of them had even fused together. Terrifying silver lightning would appear and leave their surface from time to time, blowing rapidly towards the starry night. This doomsday-like scene shocked everyone. When you just told me that this terrifying violent storm is flying towards us quickly and will arrive at our location soon. If we don't leave immediately, I'm afraid we'll die here. Zhou Zhou explained in a low voice. Everyone, there's less than half an hour left until the end of the battlefield. I'm afraid this is also because of this reason that this terrifying violent storm speed suddenly increased greatly, forcing us to advance towards the center. Therefore, even though there's not much time left, the frequency of us encountering enemies might increase greatly. Moreover, I'm afraid they're all powerful enemies. Everyone, you have to be prepared. I won't blame you if anyone wants to back out now. The final battlefield is about to close after all. There's nothing much to do. Does anyone want to back out now? Zhou Zhou said in a low voice. No one said anything. What a joke. Not to mention how good the Alliance Master was to them. They had already walked here. How could they not complete the last journey and let their efforts go to waste? Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction, seeing that no one had any intention of retreating. After that, Zhou Zhou appeased everyone and told them that he would return to the high continent in time before danger arrived. Then, he let everyone go back. At this moment, a life form enveloped in the light of lightning divine power walked over and placed his right hand on his left chest. Greetings, my lord. Ansel, the god of thunder and dark clouds, said respectfully. Welcome to Blazing Sun territory. I saw your sneak attack on the true lord just now. Not bad. Zhou Zhou praised. This is what I should do. Ansel said calmly. You should have a main body, right? Why do you keep using the divine power light around you to block your main body? Zhou Zhou asked curiously. Reporting to my lord. Our original spirit race has its own small world since we were born. We can even condense divine sparks in small worlds and become false gods. Therefore, when we first received education, we taught how to spread faith among the life forms of the small world. This divine power light looks ordinary in the Lord's eyes. However, in the eyes of those life forms from the small worlds, it's a good tool that can easily capture their reverence and obtain their faith. In addition, our original spirit race is the first race created by the Supreme Will. This gives us a characteristic. That is, other than the life forms of our race, The other life forms will automatically bring the appearance of our race into their minds when they see our main bodies. In short, the humans look at our original spirit race and think that we are humans. And the life forms of the other races will also think that we look like their race when they look at us. Therefore, in order to avoid such a misunderstanding, our original spirit race will learn this ability to cover our appearance before wandering outside. To avoid trouble, Ansel said respectfully. Zhou Zhou came to a realization. So this was the mystery of the original spirit race's name. The original life form race? Zhou Zhou was surprised. He looked at him, and his attribute information appeared in front of him. Subject, God name Ansel. Territory, Blazing Sun City. Divine title, Thunder, Dark Cloud. Strength realm, White Platinum tier elementary grade. Ability overview. The original spirit race was originally summoned by the true lord of the original spirit race after spending 10 days. It was born as the god of thunder and the god of dark clouds. It was also the true lord's most capable fighter. Its divine power talent was extremely good. Later, it was subdued by the lord of the blazing sun on the battlefield and became his loyal subordinate. Skills, talent, world lord, talent, world fisher, talent, god of thunder, talent, god of dark clouds, talent, divine power talent, talent, thunder immunity, law skill, thunder god spear, law skill, thunder god body, white platinum tier elementary grade summoning heavenly thunder, white platinum tier elementary grade instant thunder flash, white platinum tier elementary grade thousand thunder prison technique, white platinum tier elementary grade thunder elemental immunity. Loyalty, 89. Potential, true god tier advanced grade. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. As expected of the original spirit race with the strongest bloodline, there were actually so many talents. Moreover, all of them felt that they were not inferior to Xiao Xian's top talents. His potential had also reached the true god tier advanced grade, the same upper limit as Xiao Xian's talent. Not bad, not bad. Zhou Zhou nodded in satisfaction. This insight defection was not a loss. The only thing that surprised Zhou Zhou was that Zhuge Liang's strength had actually reached the white platinum tier elementary grade. At this stage, white platinum tier elementary grade was definitely a top-notch lord's personal strength other than a freak like Zhou Zhou. How did this guy do it? Zhou Zhou was curious. He did not hide his doubts and asked directly. Reporting to my lord. I'm so strong because I've always hunted the fog monsters alone and enjoyed most of the advancement energy of the fog monsters alone. With this method, my strength advanced by leaps and bounds to this extent. Ansel said respectfully. Zhou Zhou acknowledged. So that was it. With the methods of the original spirit race, if they chose to hunt the fog monsters alone and monopolize most of the promotion energy, their strength could indeed increase by leaps and bounds. However, this was only because the original spirit race was talented and innately powerful. It was already difficult for other normal race life forms to kill a fog monster alone, let alone kill a large number of fog monsters to quickly increase their strength. After that, the two of them chatted for a while before Ansel left. For the rest of the time, they flew with all their might in the direction away from the violent storm. But even so, the terrifying violent storm was still approaching them at a speed visible to the naked eye. The starry night is already slower than this violent storm. At this rate, I'm afraid it won't be long before we lords are caught and crushed by these violent storms. Zhou Zhou frowned. It seemed that he had to be prepared to bring the lords back to the high continent at any time. My lord, look here. At this moment, when Yu's voice sounded, then 3 virtual screens appeared in front of him. Zhou Zhou looked at them. These 3 screens displayed the scene in front of their starry night, to the left and to the right. It was the scene in these 3 directions that made Zhou Zhou break out in cold sweat. In 3 directions, dense black-gray violent storms were connected and quickly blew towards them with the black-gray violent storm behind them. We're surrounded by these violent storms? Zhou Zhou took a deep breath. Yes, my lord. If these violent storms continue to approach us, we will be crushed in the middle by these violent storms at the last second before the final battlefield ends. When you trailed off, Zhou Zhou nodded. It seemed that they had already flown to the core circle. My lord, we have discovered the enemy. When Yu's voice sounded again, as soon as he finished speaking, another virtual screen appeared in front of him. Zhou Zhou looked at them. Then, a life form in the middle of them flew out and approached the spaceship where Zhou Zhou was. Prepare for battle. Bai Yun, Wu Xian, and the others also saw this mysterious life form approaching. Bai Yun immediately ordered all the soldiers through the army interface. When the soldiers heard the order, they immediately entered a state of war with serious expressions. The Starry Night also stopped under Zhou Zhou's orders. In the conference room, this should be a life form of the Chaos God's race. Zhou Zhou narrowed his eyes and looked at them. He might not be able to tell the difference between others. The Chaos Chi was a very high-level energy. If he used it as an energy source to release skills, the power and effect of the skill would greatly increase by several levels. Among the myriad races, even top lords of all races like the Shepherd's God race and the original Spirit race could not mobilize the Chaos Chi before becoming gods under normal circumstances. There were only a few races like the Chaos Gods race and the Chaos Human race that could do this. Zhou Zhou looked at the 5 Chaos Gods race and frowned slightly. This was the first time he had seen the Chaos Gods race. He thought that his Chaos Human bloodline would have a special reaction, but he did not expect there to be no reaction at all. He seemed to have understood something. There shouldn't be any low-level or advanced grade bloodline between the Chaos Human bloodline and the Chaos Gods race bloodline. Both of them should have independent bloodlines. Moreover, I feel that my Chaos Human bloodline is even better than the Chaos Gods race bloodline. Zhou Zhou thought. Thinking of this, he became more and more curious about the Chaos Human bloodline in his body. His Chaos Human bloodline given by the Supreme Will did not seem to be as simple as it looked. Then, Zhou Zhou did not think too much about it. His gaze landed on the Chaos God race that was flying over again. Suddenly, the Chaos Gods race member suddenly stopped and floated in the sky. His gaze seemed to be able to see through everything as he looked at Zhou Zhou in the spaceship. A human lord faction that can survive until now? You should be the lord of the blazing sun, right? The Chaos Gods race member said. That's right. I am the lord of the blazing sun. You're the great one, lord? Zhou Zhou looked puzzled, but he was actually very certain. There was no other reason. Among the 5 Chaos Gods race, the one in front of him was the strongest. It's me. The Great One Lord laughed loudly. Then, his expression suddenly became fierce. I have you to thank. If you hadn't repelled the true Lord, it would really have been a little difficult to deal with those 2 original Spirit race members who have mastered a large number of law skills. Right now, you and I are the only lords left in the entire battlefield. As long as I deal with you and obtain all the ranking points on you, I can directly become first in this Lord of all races event. By now, you should have used up all your methods in the process of increasing your ranking points, right? How are you going to deal with me now? The Great One Lord said in a low voice. Zhou Zhou did not say anything. Instead, he looked at his surroundings through the map. In the end, he really realized that there was not a single red dot on it. Even the lords of all races had disappeared. He only saw a few fog monsters fleeing in despair. Then, something else happened. The violent storm groups that had been chasing them suddenly stopped moving. The Supreme Will is leaving a battlefield for the 2 of us so that we can fight to our heart's content and determine the last lord of all races. The Great One Lord sneered. Zhou Zhou raised his eyebrows. But he shook his head. His ranking points were more than 15 billion higher than the other parties. He would not take the risk to fight for a win as long as he was alive. He took out a blood-colored token. It was the War Halt token. Activate. The token in his hand immediately collapsed into countless blood-colored fog and disappeared into the air. Zhou Zhou looked at the surrounding battlefield and felt a little touched. He had a feeling that, as long as he wanted to, he could transfer him and his subordinates to any safe place he had ever been. A smile appeared on Zhou Zhou's face. He looked at the Great One Lord. Bye-bye. He waved his hand. As soon as he finished speaking, all the soldiers under his command, including the spaceship, loots, and other matters that belonged to Zhou Zhou, and him disappeared one after another. The Great One Lord was stunned when he saw this. Then, his expression immediately turned ugly. Escape final items. This guy really has it too. He gritted his teeth. When Zhou Zhou and the others appeared out of thin air, everyone heaved a sigh of relief, including Zhou Zhou himself. Firstly, it was because he had avoided fighting the Great One Lord and protected his ranking to the greatest extent. Secondly, this Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event that had lasted for 10 days was finally about to end. Even though this event was only the first event for the Lords after becoming official Lords, it had to be said that it gave them quite a lot of pressure. The event itself did not give them much pressure. The basic goal of this event was only to advance to the green bronze tier elementary grade after all. Their pressure mainly came from the other Lords from the outside world. To put it simply, they did not want to fall behind the Lords of their own race and the people of foreign races. It was precisely because of this that they continued to work hard after completing the basic goal of the event. In the end, their main bodies even led the army into the final battlefield because they wanted to further increase their ranking. However, it was all over now. At least this first official Lord event was over. Everyone, bring the soldiers back to your respective territories first. Then, come back to me immediately. We'll hold an alliance meeting to discuss our future development. Zhou Zhou looked at the Lords and said, even though this event was about to end, the Supreme Will would definitely have further arrangements. Since they already had the same Lord Alliance, they had to advance and retreat together and discuss what to do next. All right, Alliance Master. If it's settled, I should be at the white-silver tier advanced grade. I wonder what will be rewarded to me. I should be at the yellow-gold tier intermediate grade, haha. Big Brother is awesome. Everyone chuckled as they led their troops towards the spatial teleportation array. Clearly, they were in a good mood and had gained a lot. In the past 3 days, even though they had mainly been using insight defection to instigate the Fog Monster Lord faction, they would also deal with the Lord faction of the Myriad Races on the way if they encountered them on the way. Therefore, their current ranking points in the final battlefield had already increased greatly compared to before they went to the final battlefield. After converting the rank would definitely increase. At that time, they would be able to obtain rewards of a higher rank. Zhou Zhou asked the generals to count today's gains while he returned to his beginner-grade Lord's Paradise alone. In the conference room of beginner-grade Lord's Paradise, Zhou Zhou sat on the main seat and waited for the settlement to begin. More than 10 minutes later, just as the settlement of the final battlefield was about to begin, Zhou Zhou could not help but open the rankings of the final battlefield and look at his ranking again. Cerulean Planet Human Race, Lord of the Blazing Sun, rank 41,225,120 points. The final battlefield ranking. First, Original Spirit Race, True Lord rank 28,054,129,380 points. The final battlefield ranking. Second, Chaos Gods Race, Great One Lord rank 23,187,207,730 points. The final battlefield ranking. Third, Shepherd's God Race, Heaven Chasing Lord rank 22,288,553,500 points. The final battlefield ranking. Fourth, Zhou Zhou heaved a sigh of relief. Fortunately, nothing unexpected happened. He was still first. He looked at the sky outside. At this moment, the outside world had completely darkened, and the scarlet fog began to appear in the air. At this moment, lines of blood-red text suddenly appeared in front of Zhou Zhou. Zhou Zhou perked up and immediately looked over. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield event and the final battlefield has ended. Starting to calculate your ranking points in the final battlefield. Your current ranking points in the final battlefield are 41,225,120 points. Congratulations, your ranking points in the final battlefield are ranked first among the Lords of all races. You have successfully reached the top of the rankings. An announcement that Zhou Zhou had never seen before appeared in front of him. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human Lord of the Blazing Sun for successfully reaching the top of the final battlefield ranking. Reward, Myriad Races Mythical Tier Treasure Chest +1. Reputation rating plus 10. Mythical reputation rating plus 1. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race Lord of the Blazing Sun. Lord of all races announcement. Congratulations to the human race Lord of the Blazing Sun. Zhou Zhou was stunned after hearing the 3 announcements. An announcement on the entire channel of the Lords of all races? What announcement is this? What's the mythical reputation rating? He muttered to himself. He had been on the announcements of the Lord of Cerulean Planet countless times. This was the first time he had appeared on the announcement of the Lord of all races. Not only had his name changed, the reward had also changed from a supreme treasure chest to a mythical tier treasure chest. The reputation rating reward had also directly increased to 10 reputation rating points. There was even a mythical reputation rating reward that he had never seen before. Zhou Zhou felt that he was making a killing. At this moment, a notification appeared in front of Zhou Zhou, as if to answer his doubts. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield Event Hint 1. An announcement on the entire channel refers to the highest level announcement that will be made on the World channel at the same time. It is also the highest honor for the Lords of all races. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield Event Hint 2. The mythical reputation rating is a prestige unit of a higher level than the reputation rating. The reputation and story of life forms with the mythical reputation rating will be known by the life forms of the myriad races. It will even be integrated into the mythical tier of the myriad races for the life forms of the myriad races to sing and remember. Myriad Races Lord Battlefield Event Hint 3. The Lord of all races who obtains the mythical reputation rating will obtain the loyalty of a mythical reputation rating talent on the second day. They're actually making an announcement in the World channel of the Lords of all races. Am I famous among the myriad races? Zhou Zhou said in surprise. Then, he thought of something and smiled bitterly. The winds howl around the highest peaks. Honestly, even though he was strong now, he was far from being able to ignore all enemies. Such an announcement was really lovable and hateful. In addition, he was already very familiar with talents attracted by the reputation rating, but this was the first time he had heard of a talent attracted by the mythical reputation rating. I wonder what's special about a talent attracted by mythical reputation rating? Zhou Zhou said deliberately. Unfortunately, this time, neither the event notification of the Myriad Races Lord Battlefield nor the Supreme Will notification explained it to him. Zhou Zhou felt that it was a pity. It seemed that he could only see what his mythical reputation rating talent was like tomorrow. The text notification was not over yet. Zhou Zhou did not have time to look at what the Lords on the World channel were discussing and continued to look. Converting to your Myriad Races Lord Battlefield ranking level, according to your ranking points in the final battlefield. 10 billion ranking points worth mythical tier advanced grade. 31,225,102,120 ranking points, about 3,120 points. Your Myriad Races Lord Battlefield rank is mythical tier advanced grade, 3,120 points. Congratulations, your Myriad Races Lord Battlefield is ranked first among the Lords of all races. You have successfully reached the top of the Myriad Races Lord Battlefield ranking. You have obtained the reward of being the strongest Lord of all races. You have obtained the title of the strongest Lord of all races. As you are ranked first in the Myriad Races Lord Battlefield, you are regarded as reaching the top of the Lord Battlefield of your race. You have obtained the reward for being the strongest Lord. You have obtained the title of the strongest Lord. Zhou Zhou looked at the notifications and only had one feeling. Awesome.
Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, please like, share, and subscribe.